Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom. It's Brother Riot. I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, by Shema Mashiach Malak Yahushua. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that go out there and labor on the highways and byways, making their body a living sacrifice. In the rain, the tumults, the demons, the uprises, the uproars, they're out there standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that are not out there as of yet, but they're building themselves up by reading, praying, fasting, being diligent, taking notes, steadfast, doing everything they could do to magnify the name of the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty Akwaf in this thing that actually sincerely reverence their husbands, being teachers of good things to the children at home, being quiet, shamefaced, submissive, loving, steadfast, cooking, sewing, cleaning, doing all of the righteous acts of our foremothers. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty Akwaf that are not married as of yet, but they're building themselves up, being shamefaced, submissive, loving, steadfast, taking care of the children, doing everything they can do to magnify the ministry. And last but not least, another strong shalom to all of the mighty children that are in this thing, abstaining from all lust, concupiscence, and peer pressure, standing 10 toes down for the name of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And another strong shalom to the whole entire nation that is fasting, praying, reading, taking notes, examining themselves, going into prophecy, doing everything they can do to make the calling of their election sure. Now, this is going to be an in-depth breakdown on the two beasts, right? Let me share my screen through the spirit. Salaki, bear with me. And give me a con if you can see the screen. All right, let me get a con if you can see the screen. Right, this is going to be an in-depth breakdown on the two beasts, the Roman Empire, the revised Roman Empire, right, and everything pertaining to prophecy, man. Right, we're going to jump into the book of Daniel through the spirit. Because in these last days, brothers got to be occupied in prophecy, man. You can't be occupied in things that don't pertain unto you. Let's get the book of Daniel, right? Chapter 12, and I'm going to start at verse number 9. It says, and he said, go thy way, Daniel, for the words are sealed, Salaki, words are closed up and sealed to the time of the end. That's how we know we ended living in the end of the world, man. Because these words are sealed up until the time of the end. That's why brothers are going into Daniel, Ezekiel, going into Second Esdras, going into Revelation, going into these prophecies and these in-depth breakdowns, breaking down the truth in the last days, man. T.D. Jakes isn't going to give you the truth. So-called Creflo Dolly isn't going to tell you the so-called white man is the devil, man. He's not going to tell you the so-called Jewish man, right? And all of these different things, right? It's a damn lie, man. They're not going to come out and tell you the God's honest truth according to the Bible. Amalek is Satan. They're not going to come out and say these things. Why? Because they're puppets, man. They're liars. They're false apostles, false teachers, man. And men set up to destroy and devour the sheep. While the men, real men of the Lord, the prophets, the elders, right, and all the apostles, they're going to be coming out of the scriptures. Thus saith the Lord, man. It says, many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand. Now that's twofold. It's talking about the so-called white man in these nations, but on another fold, if you don't understand these prophecies, diving into them, understanding what it is that the Most High is required of man to dig, to reveal a matter, and you literally don't care to do so, man, and you're falling and contempting small and small, and the Most High calls you wicked. But the wise shall understand. Everybody searching out a matter, everybody caring, and everybody in prophecy in the last days, hey, you're wise. Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 19, right? And verse number 9. It says this. And he said, Salakia, and he said unto me, right, blessed are they which are called into the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said unto me, these are the true sayings of God. And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, see that thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahushua. Worship God, for the testimony of Yahushua is the spirit of prophecy. You got to ask yourself, man, am I living in the spirit and am I walking in the spirit of prophecy? Or am I just walking in the milk all day, man? Or am I just walking in the bread all day? You have to grow in this thing, man. The more you understand, the more the Most High reveals to you, the bigger your appetite is. The more you should want. The more you should crave, man. The more you should be on the hunt for these parables and this understanding, man. Right, let me get this quick precept. Let me get the book of Sirach. All right, it's the book of Sirach, chapter 13, and verse number 26. It says, a cheerful countenance is a token of the heart, of a heart that is in prosperity. And the finding out of parables is a wearisome labor to the mind. So if you're actually in these prophecies and digging these things out, it should be wearisome to the mind, man. What is this talking about? I got to link this up with history. Okay, why did the Most High say this? Who is this king? What is this dragon talking about? What is this similitude going into? Until you actually uncover these things through what? Searching out a matter as a king. Like it says in Proverbs, the 25th chapter. Let me get this quick precept. This Proverbs chapter 25 and verse number 2. And it reads, it says, it is the glory of God to conceal a thing. So this knowledge isn't for everybody to understand. The Most High literally concealed it. When you read the book of Revelations, the 10th chapter, Daniel, the 12th chapter, 2nd Esdras, many of chapters, the 10th chapter, the Most High reveals similitudes, mysteries. It says, but the honor of kings, meaning it's an honor, man, is to search out a matter. Meaning you have to. You can't be content with the understanding you know, or watching TV, or just knowing you're an Israelite and what tribe you come from. You should desire and crave understanding and wisdom and devour it, man. Like it says in the book of 2nd Esdras chapter 8 and verse 4. Let's go to Revelation. Right, let's kick this thing off. Revelation chapter 13 and verse number 1. This is the book of Revelation, right? Chapter 13 and verse 1. It says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea. Now this is a similitude. Now John wrote the book of Revelations around 90 to 95 AD on the island of Patmos. On the island of Patmos, John is getting these revelations and these visions. You understand? It says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, to understand first, let's get what a beast is, because brothers may not know. Let's go to Daniel chapter 7, right, in verse number 17. This is Daniel chapter 7 and verse 17, and it reads, these great beasts which are four kings. So the Most High likens man unto beasts. You know, we're likened unto an ox in the book of Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 3. We're likened unto sheep without a shepherd. We're likened unto lions. We're likened unto diverse creatures as well. Just like the so-called white man. He's likened unto the eagle. He's likened unto the snake. He's likened unto all of these doleful creatures that live in the wilderness, which is spiritual, man. Hey, did not Job say, I am a brother to dragons, man? In the book of Job, it says, these are great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. So the Most High likens man unto beasts. When you read the book of Job, chapter 39, it tells you that, man. Let me go to the book of Job, chapter 39. And all of these different beasts take on different attributes, right, of these nations. It's the book of Job, chapter 39, and verse number 1. Knowest thou the time when the wild goats of the rocks bring forth? Or canst thou mark when the hens do clave? Canst thou number the months that were fulfilled? Or knowest thou the time when they bring forth? They bow themselves, they bring forth their young ones, they cast out their sorrows. This is the point. Their young ones are like in good liking. They grow up with corn, they go forth, return not unto them. Who have sent out the wild ass free? And we're like the wild ass. We're stubborn. We go astray. You understand? We're in the desert. Or who have loosed the bands of the wild ass? And we're the wild ass in the desert, man. The Lord is saying, who has loosed the bands, meaning let us go free from that yoke that's being placed upon our neck for servitude, man. So as you read Job, the 39th chapter, and we're not going to do an in-depth breakdown on it, but nevertheless, all of these attributes of these animals, the horse, right, the eagle, the ostrich, right, the oxen, the snake, all of these different things take on attributes. So man is likened unto beast in the Bible. So when the Lord says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise out of the sea. Now, this beast is a structured whole of Esau's empire. This is not just one nation. This beast is not just the Roman Empire or just America. It says having 7 heads and 10 horns. So this beast has 7 heads and 10 horns, right? French, Spain, Germany, Russia, Greeks, Romans, and Great Britain. Those would be the 7 heads, the ruling structure empire of Esau. And 10 horns, which is the EU. Now, we're about to go into it. These would be your so-called EU countries. But it started off with 10, mainly in the common market. You got Belgium, Denmark, France, Italy, Luxembourg, right? Netherlands, Greece, Ireland, Slovakia, England, and West Germany. So as it grew during time, the EU countries, but nevertheless, it started off with those major 10, which are also known as the 10 horns, and also known as the 10 toes when you read Daniel, the 2nd chapter. It's the same thing. It's going back and forth, back and forth. Now, going back to Revelation, it says having 7 heads and 10 horns. So you got to imagine this thing, man. Now, if we go into it, let me see if they got any imageries on it. So the so-called white man, right? Of course, he's going to come up with this crazy idea and this bunch of tigers and lions and horns coming out of him. But nevertheless, the Lord is likening to all of Esau to be a raging damn demon, man. A raging dragon, something you can't explain like this, with 7 heads and 10 horns, all of one mind and one spirit moving to devour and conquer, man. Right? In Revelation, the 13th chapter, it says, and upon his horns, 10 crowns. So he has crowns, meaning dominion and rulership over, right, these things, and upon his head, the name of blasphemy. So a horn represents strength when you go inside of it. Let's go to the book, right, of Psalms, chapter 75, and verse number 10. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 75, and verse number 10. It says, all the horns of the wicked also will I cut off. So the Lord likens what? The horns, right, to be equal in strength. Because you have a so-called rhinoceros, you have so-called creatures, right, with horns. It says, but the horn of the righteous shall be exalted. Like the Lord said in the book of Luke, chapter 1 and verse 70, man. So horns in the Bible execute what? Strength. Adonijah caught on the full horns of Solomon's altar. We read, we could get that real fast. 1 Kings, man. 1 and verse 50 all the way down. It says this, and Adonijah feared because of Solomon, right? King Solomon, as he took the throne, and arose and went and caught hold of the horns of his altar, man. So the king sit on, a throne, and upon their altar has horns, meaning strength, man. So kings walk in that spirit. Hey, and it's always a just balance of things. These nations have horns, man, which is rulership, dominion, and strength on the left-hand side. It says this, verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. So the Lord likens this Esau, this whole rulership of the so-called white man, and likened unto a leopard, meaning different creatures, and we're going to go inside of it. And his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So it says, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, man. Let's go into it. Let's go to the book of Daniel, chapter 7, and verse number 6. So this beast is taking on all these attributes of different nations that were before it, right? Which equaling up totality to this beast, right? You may have so-called brother, he may take on an attribute from his uncle because his uncle liked to fight. And his so-called father, he dealt with weaponry. And then his great-grandfather, he deals with this and that. And he's taking on all of these different things, apping himself for war, man. Let's go to the book of Daniel. Right, it's the book of Daniel, chapter 7, and verse number 6. And it reads, it says, after this, and I beheld, and lo, like a leopard, right, which are the Greeks, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl, the beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given unto it. So just like when we read Daniel chapter 7 and verse 17, these beasts is likened unto what? Nations. And these nations are likened unto creatures. And they all have different attributes. A leopard is fast when they conquer and they run. The same way Alexander the Great was, man. When he was taking down all of the providences and went rape, rob, and murder, man. So it says, and after this, and I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, right? So the so-called white man, I mean, his ruling empires, you have the Greek Empire, you got the Roman Empire, you got the so-called daughter of Babylon. All of these different empires are making up this spirit that the Most High is talking about, man. Now, upon this beast sits the daughter of Babylon, which are the 7 heads that are under it, meaning the daughter of Babylon is going to have rulership and dominion and be the top nation out of all those that are listed. Now, we're going to go right back to it. Right, let's go to the book, 2nd Esdras, chapter 12. Let me see if I got it, so I can bear with me. Let me see if I got 2nd Esdras right here. Okay, come on. I'm going to get 2nd Esdras, chapter 12 and verse 26. Right, and it reads, it says, and whereas thou saw that the great head appeared no more, it signified that one of them should die upon his bed, and yet with great pain. Now, let's talk about America. Now you have 3 heads, where you have America, the EU, and you have Russia, which are the last 3 ruling empires of the earth. And the Most High just told you. When you read 2nd Esdras 11, 12, Daniel 7, right, various other precepts, even Daniel the 12th chapter, and various other breakdowns and Revelation, you know, all Revelation, the Lord tells you the end of time, man. He gives it to you. All you got to do is keep the commandments. Be diligent, fast, pray, smote on your chest in humility, and bow down in meekness and ask the Most High to reveal these things to you, man. And if it be of his will, and he knows that you're going to purge and bring forth more fruit, the Most High, if it be his desire, he'll give that to you. And what you do with that, you lay it up like treasure, and you teach it, and you edify. You get edified with these things. And the scriptures link hand in hand with history when you go into history. Now it says, and whereas thou sawest that the great head appeared no more, it signified that one of them should die upon his bed, and yet with great pain. And that's America, man. Because America is going to get taken down by the EU. That's Revelation, the 17th chapter. You're going to read about that, man. And Russia is going to be the last ruling empire that's going to reign for a little while, man. Now, going back to it, let me get this real fast. It says, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. So it's likened unto the Greek Empire. Because the Greek Empire, what did they do? Let's go to it. Let's find out. Let's go to the book of Daniel. Right, let's go to the book of Daniel. Chapter 8. It's the book of Daniel, chapter 8. And I'm gonna read 20 first. It says, and the ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia. See, you had the Median Empire, right? You got the Persian. Now it says, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia. So you have the goat, right? And then you have the ram. Going back up, it's the book of Daniel, chapter 8. And I'm going to start at verse number 4. And I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, and southward, so that no beast, which is a nation, might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. right? So I want to pull this up real fast. Salakia, bear with me. I'm going to pull this up real fast. So you had the Achaemenid Empire. Now, under the Achaemenid Empire, right, you had Cyrus the Great, Cambyses II, Darius, Xerxes, Artaxerxes, Xerxes II, Sogdianus, Darius II, Artaxerxes II, Artaxerxes III, Archelaus, and Darius III. And then you had literally the Median dynasty under Decius all the way to Astyages that you read about in the book of Bel and the Dragon, chapter 1 and verse 1. Now their wars, we're not going to get into all of them, but you got the conquest of Egypt, the conquest of Babylon, right? You got the conquest or the Persian revolt, rather. So, I mean, this round was going crazy, man. The Grecian, Roman, it's like the Grecian Persian wars, right? The Battle of Corinth. So when he was pushing westward, northward, southward, all hell was breaking loose, man. Right? You got the second conquest of Egypt. So all of these things were going down. It says, and as I was considering, behold, and he came forth right to west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. Meaning he devoured everything that he touched. And he did it speedily, man. That's the same way Esau when he comes into power. In totality, all of this beast is taking down everything. From literally the French, all of them. They're taking it down the whole world by rape, rob, murder, and evilness. And the goat had a noble horn between his eyes, right? You know, we got the Greek Empire and Alexander the Great, or Alexander the Freak, man. Going back to it, and his feet were like the feet of a bear. So this beast that we're reading about, its feet is also like the feet of a bear. Now, I'm going to go into that too, because Russia is the bear. Russia is likened unto what? The bear. And Russia is also the last ruling empire that is going to be on the earth, man. So the end of anything will have to be your what? Your feet. Just like Daniel, you have the feet and you have the toes. But into this beast, which is all of Esau, the end of his empire will be what? The Russian Empire. Now you have, let me go to it. The so-called white man, right? The Russians. And he tells you that he's Russians, man. With the hats, the wars. Look at the Russians fighting on the bear, man. He tells you these things. It's not like it's a deep, dark mystery similitude and you got to break inside of the Colosseum and the museums and you got all black on and the only thing that you show is a little white menorah right here. Oh, you're all black. And you got your Mitri tied up like a villain and you go down the rope and there's nobody there. You click your flashlight on. You look at all the books. You blow all of the books and all of the dust flies in the air and you're on the hunt for the biggest book there. And no, brother, all you got to do is literally go on the internet, man. The Most High would direct you. This is one of the most profitablest things the Most High set up, right, that we know of this earth, man. Because the internet shows you so much if you use it correctly in righteousness. Timelines, dates, empires, right? All of these different things, man. But nevertheless, let's go back to it. It says, and the feet were as the feet of a bear, right? It says, and his mouth was as the mouth of a lion. So you got the Babylonian Empire, right, which is the lion. You got the bear, which is Russia. I mean, all of these attributes of this beast is likened unto Esau, right? And that's the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter, verse 4 all the way down. And the dragon gave him his power, man, and his seat and great authority. Now, what does it mean the dragon gave him his power? So the spiritual demon Satan is going to give rulership and dominion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat. Now, how can a dragon give you power? I mean, you could read about it in the book of Matthew, man. Satan actually came to Hamashiach Wamalak Yahushua the righteous. And he wanted him to do what? Bow down. So that he can give him all the kingdoms of the earth. So essentially, Cain bowed down to the spiritual demon Satan all the way during the time of Genesis, which led to what? His rulership, his blessing, his dominion, his covetousness of the earth, the fields, the oil, the people, the souls, the slaves, all of these different things he inherited on the left-hand side by the spiritual demon Satan. It's the book of Matthew, chapter 4, and verse number 3. And when the tempter came, because what does the tempter do, man? He tempts you. He tempts you with gold, money, women, idolatry. To him, he said, if thou be the Son of God, command these stones to be made bread. But he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Yahweh. Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city and setteth him on a pinnacle of the temple, man. So why is the spiritual demon Satan setting up Yahushua over the whole earth to watch it all, man? Each empire, each city, each town, each province, each person. It says, and saith unto him, if thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down. Continuously tempting him. So you can read that the spiritual demon Satan, he'll give you riches, glory. He'll give you all of these things. That's literally the blessing that he received. Let's go to the book of Genesis, the 3rd chapter. Matter of fact, let's go to Genesis, the 4th chapter. It's the book of Genesis, chapter 4, right? And I'm going to get straight to the point. Verse 14. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth. Right? Talking about Cain. And from thy face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken upon him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, meaning he left the Lord. Not that he ever truly knew him, but he left the presence of the Lord to dwell with a spiritual demon Satan and the cherubim east of Eden, and dwelled in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch, and he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. And that's the book of Psalms, chapter 49 and verse 11, man. Because they're literally going to covet things and lame lands after themselves. Now, what was on the east of Eden? Those cherubims that you read about in the following chapter, man, in the book of Genesis. So the spiritual demon Satan will meet you, man, like an angel of light, like it says in 2 Corinthians, chapter 11 and verse 13. It's the book of Genesis, chapter 3 and verse, let me get straight to the point. Verse number 23. It says, therefore, the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims. And this is talking about Adam. So when Cain walked out from the presence of the Lord, which is the so-called white man, what did he do? He went immediately to make a deal with the devil. He went immediately to make a covenant, a contract, the everlasting contract to serve him. And if you can't receive it or understand it, hey, man, you have to understand how deep witchcraft can actually be. How you can actually sell your soul and your substance and your mind and your spirit, man. The Lord's not getting down with those things, right? Let's go back to it. It says, the dragon gave him his power. Matter of fact, let me get one more. Let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 27, verse 40. Because Esau has infinite power on the left-hand side. You think you know Esau's power, and you know he got a little missile, and he's sitting up there, he got submarine, and no, he actually rules the earth, man. Underground things that we know nothing about, bunkers, helicopters, islands, right? All type of sorcery in the air and satellites and things beyond our understanding and imagination, man. It's the book of Genesis, chapter 27, verse 40. This is what we know. We're so-called civilians. Imagine if we so-called went into the army and we upped up in the rank, and they give you that little sticker and that little sticker and that little ribbon and this little ribbon till your whole chest is filled up with colors, man. And then you walk through that secret door that opens up. Then you go down another door. Then you enter into this other room. About 7 other rooms, you enter into all of his witchcraft and his chief things that nobody knows about. It's the book of Genesis 27 and 40. and by thy sword shalt thou live, and so serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. It says this. Matter of fact, let me read up a little bit more. Right? Verse 38. And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth. So, I mean, he's making a deal, and he's already from all the way from Genesis to receive more blessings as it comes to Isaac to inherit all of what we see, man. And the Lord said the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered up the faces of the judges thereof. If not where, then who is he? Meaning, if it's not the so-called white man, who in the hell could it be? It says, and his seat meaning throne, and great authority. So it didn't just say he had authority, it said he had great authority. Going down to verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as if it was wounded to death. Now, one of his heads is one of the 7 heads, right? Like we're reading, you got French, Spain, Germany, Russia, Greeks, the Romans, and Great Britain. Out of one of the heads, you got the Roman Empire. Because you have the 7, and during this time of John was the Roman Empire. So this is what it is talking about. From 90 to 95 AD when John wrote this. Now, going into it, it says, and I saw one of his heads as if it were wounded. So you have different versions, or parts rather, of the Roman Empire. You have the Roman Republic. We have the time of kings that you read about, or that you may read and go into history about. You have the time of the kings. Now, during the time of the kings, hold on, let me get into it. The period of the kings would be around what they would say 753 BC, 725 BC. You got the period of the kings, which is before the Roman Republic. You have the Roman Republic. You got impartial Rome. You got the Eastern Roman Empire, and then you have the Western Roman Empire, which fell around 476, you understand, AD. Now, with the time of the kings, right, the period of kings, let me see if we could pull that up. All right, the period of kings, there you go, around 725 BC, like I said. So you have the period of kings before you get to the Roman Republic. Now, during the period of kings, they revolted and made kings out of their own, right? Now, let me get this quick precept. So when you dive into the history of Esau, you don't want to stay on a general level. You know, snake, serpent, adder, devil. You want to go into his history, man. Because you may be able to negate to a foolish man or an unlearned man that this serpent in this context isn't talking about the so-called white man. He may say when you actually go into, you know, Isaiah, this chapter, this Pharaoh and this dragon is really talking about this. But you can't negate history, man. And history links up with the scriptures. And it testifies against them. Let's go to the book of 2 Kings. Real fast. Chapter 8 and verse number 20. Now, in 2 Kings 8 and verse 20, it tells you during the time where they revolted and made kings, that what? We're about to read it. And the king said unto Hazael, take up, Salakia, bear with me. I'm going to read verse 20. That's what I want. Verse 20, it says, in his days Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah and made a king over themselves. Now, this happened around 753 AD, Salakia, BC, right? And you read up from there, it'll tell you, right? In verse 16, and in the 5th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, the king of Israel, Jehoshaphat being the king of Judah, Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, began to reign. So as he's reigning, the revolt happened, man. Jumping back to verse 20, it says, in his days, Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah. Because we used to have a so-called white man in subjection. That's not just talking about smacking him upside the head or grabbing his neck and putting him to the yoke. He actually was in servitude. He actually was locked up. He actually was in a prison cell, man, and kept. When you read the book of 2 Samuel, right, the 8th chapter, when you go into these things, right? Let me prove that real fast. So we gotta know these things, man. And that's very good and pivotal to understand that he revolted from under us because we used to rule and reign over him. And then as you read on from the time we don't got to get it, you know, I don't want to make this too deep into a history lesson. But nevertheless, they used to have their own so-called kings, man. You had the Dukes of Edom in Genesis 36, all the way to they had kings that you read about in the book of First Kings, the 11th chapter, the so-called white man. All the way, I mean, all of these things. Now, when you go to the book of 2 Samuel chapter 8, where I'm going to get straight to the point. It's the book of 2 Samuel chapter 8, and I'm going to start at, I don't want to read too much. But nevertheless, when you read this whole chapter, David was putting everybody in slavery, man. The Assyrians, right? He put the so-called white man in slavery. Everybody was getting locked up in servitude. We don't have to necessarily read it or dive too deep into that history. But nevertheless, it says, and Joram went over to Zaza and all the chariots with him, and he rose by night and smote the Edomites, which compassed him about, and the captains of the chariots and the people fled into their tents. Yet Edom revolted under the hand of Judah until this day. So from literally during the time of Jehoram all the way to the time that we living in now, we got slaves off the loose, man. Also, the so-called Africans are slaves off the loose. Right? When you read the book of 1 Kings, Salakia 2 Kings, the 9th chapter, verse 20 all the way down. So when you go into it, you got the period of kings, right? From them revolting. And then you have, we're about to go back into it. Salakia, bear with me. Pull up all of this history, Lord willing. Then you got the Roman Republic. Now, from the Roman Republic, you got that from around 510 to 40 BC. Now, you can read about that in the book of First Maccabees, the 8th chapter. You got impartial Rome from 20 AD to 360, the Eastern Roman Empire and the Western Roman Empire. Now, I want to go back to that precept and then break this down again. It says, and I saw one of his heads as if it were wounded to death, talking about the Roman Empire, and his deadly wound was healed. Because the so-called Roman Empire, you got the Eastern Roman Empire and the Western Roman Empire. The Western Roman Empire fell in 476 BC, and so-called was healed by the Eastern Roman Empire all the way up to the Renaissance. And all the world wondered after the beast. Now, how did the Western Roman Empire fall? Matter of fact, before we get it, this is the providence of Rome. I mean, they conquered everything. They conquered Hispania, Gaul. I mean, everything that you see, Bithynia, Thrace, Macedonia, right? All of these different places. And in the middle where you see it not being conquered is the Mediterranean Sea. So, I mean, Britannia, they went on a run conquering and devouring, man. Right, Salaki, bear with me. Right, so you got Thrace, Asia, Pamphylia, right, Judea, right, Mesopotamia, Babylon. So all of these places were essentially taken on a Roman conquest, man. Now, going into the Roman conquest, I don't want to be too long-winded or go too deep on the Roman conquest or the history, rather. But nevertheless, it's a lucky bro with me. Let me roll up. So going into the history, how the Roman Empire fell. it says the most straightforward theory for the Western Romans collapse pins the fall of a string of military losses sustained against outside forces, right? Because you read when you go into the history about the so-called invasion, barbarian invasion. It says Rome had tangled with Germanic tribes for centuries, but by the 300s, barbarian groups like the Goth had encroached beyond the empire's borders. Now I want to stop right here because this kind of links up with the crisis of the 3rd century when you go into the history. Now you have a such thing called the crisis of the 3rd century. 3rd century, the 300s, barbarian invasions, groups like Gaul and XYZ. Nevertheless, it says the crisis of the 3rd century, also known as the military anarchy or the impartial crisis, right, from 235 to 284, was a period in which the Roman Empire nearly collapsed. So all hell was breaking loose, man. And if the Most High likens America into so-called Rome, what do you think is going to happen to America? I mean, Rome was on fire. They were built up. Their colosseums, their kings, right? All of their so-called men of high renown and their governors and all of these different things. They had the money, the coin. They was beating people. You had all of the so-called persecutions and all of these different things. But they failed, man. Name one empire that ruled that didn't fall, man. Every empire that's ever been on this earth has failed. The Egyptian empire, with all of its might and all of its strength, with all of Pharaoh's armies and chariots, and the Most High destroyed them, man. And literally drowned all of them just to rise up his name, his powerful name. Read about that in Joshua, man. Chapter 11. Let me get that real fast. So it's nothing for the Most High to build you up, to break you down, man. It's the book of Joshua, right? Chapter 11 and verse number 20. For it was of the Lord to harden their hearts, that he should come against Israel, that they should come against Israel in battle, that he might destroy them utterly. So the Most High rise up a nation just to destroy them, huh? Most High isn't just rising up these different empires for fun. He rises them up, right? And he destroys them in the sight of all to see. The same that happened to the Roman Empire. It actually collapsed. You had a such thing as the Salaki, bear with me. What is it called? Salaki, bear with me. The Great Fire of Rome. You had the Great Fire of Rome around 64 AD, right, which damn near destroyed Rome. You got the crisis of the 3rd century, the barbarian invasions. I mean, all hell was breaking loose, man. And when you go into the history, it tells you that not just one thing was affected. The whole economy got affected, man. Right, going back to the crisis, it says the crisis began in 235 when the assassination of Emperor, right, we're not going to get that deep, but it says the Emperor saw the combined pressure of the barbarian invasion and migrations into the Roman territory. Civil wars. So what broke out when Rome started to decline? Civil wars, man. And that's what's happening right now with America, man. They're going against everybody. Afghanistan, Iran, it's going against everybody. It says pleasant rebellions and political instability, man. So, I mean, their politics and all of their system started to decline also. So when Rome started to decline, it wasn't just fight and a bunch of swords and men with bucklers and screaming and yelling, man. The whole so-called political system fell also. It says, with multiple insurrections completing the power, this led the debasement of the currency. So now the U.S., now the Roman currency started to fall. And all of this is spiritual. Because when Rome fell, it wasn't just a bunch of men that invaded the place. They started throwing over tables. Their currency fell. Their politics fell. The wars that they were raging and were losing. And ultimately, it ended to what? The economy collapsed. And that's what's going to happen to America. We're already in a state of civil wars right now going on. We're already in a state of our politicians, so-called, not knowing what the hell to do. Should we vote for Trump and Joe Biden? He's 109, and what do we do? Somebody wake up Al Gore out of sleep, right? They don't know what the hell is going on, man. The currency, right? They owe China billions of dollars. The economy collapsing. So all your so-called systems, your Safeways, your Giants, your food markets, right? All of these different things, your Costco's, your gas prices, all of these things are going to drop, man. Just like they did in the ancient time. With the plague of Caribbean contributing to the disorder. So all hell was breaking loose. What did they call Rome collapse? A disorder, man. They said this thing is over. Going back to it, right? You got the Eastern Roman Empire that came out of the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Now going back to it, I'm going to go right back to it. Salaki, bear with me. This is the book of Revelation chapter 13 and verse 3. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. Check that out. And his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast, man. So everybody's wondering after this beast. What does that mean they're wondering after it? Let's go to the book of 2nd Esdras. All right, let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 11. The 2nd Esdras chapter 11, and I'm going to start at verse 40. Now this first beast that we keep reading about is talking about the Roman Empire. You have the beast in Revelations 13 and verse 1 all the way down, all of Esau's structure with all of his 7 heads. Now out of that head that was wounded is the Roman Empire, which is that first beast. This is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 11, in verse number 40. It says this, and the fourth came and overcame all of the beasts. Now that fourth is the fourth out of Daniel, the 7th chapter. Because 2nd Esdras 11 and Daniel, the 7th chapter, they link up. They have the same vision, but for different appointed times. You know, the Lord, he'll tell you that, man. Right? Let me get that real fast. In the book of, I got my apocrypha right here. Just want to read it. Matter of fact, I'm going to pull it up so brothers can see. So, bear with me. Just in case. Brothers may not have their sword on them for whatever reason. It's the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 12, and verse 10. And he said unto me, this is the interpretation of the vision. The eagle whom thou sawest come up from the sea is the kingdom which was seen in the vision of thy brother Daniel. So Daniel and Ezra, they had the same vision. Now the Most High gave Daniel a little something, and the Most High gave Ezra a little something as well. But that's all through the revelation of the Spirit. It's the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 11 and verse 40. And the fourth came and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world with great fearfulness, and over the whole compass of the earth. So as the Roman Empire was in the play, it conquered the whole earth with fear. And everybody wondered and looked and admired and looked into this thing. And who is this beast? With much wicked oppression, and so long time dwelt he upon the earth with deceit. It says such long time, right? From literally Caesar to Tiberius, all of these different men, they reign with deceit and lies and witchcraft. Going back to it, it's the book of Revelation, chapter 3, it's like at 13 and verse number 4. And they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, or who is able to make war with them? And that's what they're saying. Who could take down a Roman Empire? That's the same thing as 2nd Esdras, the 11th chapter. It says, in verse 42, but thou hast afflicted the meek, thou hast hurt the peaceable, thou hast loved liars, and destroyed the dwellings of them that have brought fruit, and has cast down the walls of such as did thee no harm. Therefore is thy wrongful dealing come up unto the highest, and thy pride unto the mighty. The highest also have looked upon the proud times. It says, behold, they are ended, and his abominations are fulfilled. So the Most High has something that has to be fulfilled in the earth. Wickedness, rape, murder, lies, false dealings, atrocities, afflictions, all of the persecutions. Everything has to rise up to a T, right, for the Most High to fulfill his judgment, man. And the cup. So their action is saying, well, who can make power and war with this beast? Now, when it says, and they worship the dragon is the spiritual demon Satan, which can only give power unto this beast. Nobody else can give power unto the so-called white man, but the spiritual demon Satan. Let me get this quick precept. Let me get the book of Sirach, chapter 10, and I'm gonna start at verse number 9. Why is earth and ashes proud? There is not more, it's like it is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. And who covets fields and takes them by violence? The so-called white man. For such an one setteth his own soul to sell. And didn't he sell his own soul in Genesis, the 25th chapter, verse 29 all the way down? Isn't that in the Bible? Let me get this quick precept. Well, I'm going to have to open up another tab. Let's go to the book of Genesis. So he sold his own soul, man. He sold his birthright and his soul. He didn't want it. He neglected it. You read about that in Hebrews, the 12th chapter, man. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 25, and verse number 29. And Jacob sought pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said unto Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. So he's sitting up there begging Jacob for something to eat. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright, man. So don't look at this like it's a birthright. Okay, you could be the older. Just give me something to eat. No, a birthright was your heritage. That's who you are. You are the king. You are the strength. You would be the leader. You would be the head. Your lineage, your men that came after you would all follow suit with that spirit and blessing. But you negated and denied the blessing. You didn't care about the blessing. You care about something carnal as damn pottage, man, and meat, which is spiritual too. Because he wants to fulfill his flesh rather than to serve and keep the covenant of the Most High. It says, and Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die. And he wasn't at the point to die. He just wanted to fulfill his lust and his pleasure and his feeding. And what profit, it's the so-called white, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? What profit? And it wasn't like Esau didn't know the commandments. Because Esau knew the commandments, man. It tells you he knew the commandments. Because he kept the commandments somewhat under Isaac and not taking a woman of Canaan until Isaac died. Soon as Isaac died, what did he do? He went to go get the daughters of Canaan. He went the hell off, man. He was waiting for his father to put him away so he could go do his lust, man, and fulfill his desires and pleasures. So this man is profane. He neglected his birthright. He doesn't care about the Most High, man. So who is he going to serve? Who is he going to get his strength and his understanding and power from? The spiritual demon Satan. And they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, or who is able to make war with him? Because at that time, nobody could touch the Roman Empire. It's Daniel chapter 7 and verse 7. Well, let me get this real fast. Let me read the rest of this precept. It says, and one setteth his own soul to sell, because while he liveth, he cast away his bowels. And that's exactly what he did, man. He cast away the birthright. He cast away his strength. He cast away, essentially, everything of the blessing of the Most High, man. Right? But nevertheless, that was all written for our learner's sake, because he can never handle, nor was it ever given to him from the foundation of the earth. Right? It says this, verse 5, Salakia. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. So this mouth given to him was speaking great things and blasphemies. But I want to get this quick precept. Daniel, that's what I wanted to get. Daniel chapter 7. Let's go to Daniel chapter 7. Now, Daniel chapter 7 and verse number 7, it says, after this I saw in the night visions, behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. Like the Lord said, who can make war with him? And it had a great iron teeth, and devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. And that's plain, man. So if it's the different from all of the other beasts, Greeks, you got Babylon, you got the Persians and the Medes, they all ruled, with a monarchy. With so-called a Roman Empire, they had a government. You could read about that in First Maccabees, the 8th chapter, verse 15 all the way down. That's where America gets its judicial branch and all of these different branches where they sit down, old white men with the comb over with their suits on, and they talk trash, man. And they go into philosophies of how to corrupt the earth and create laws and decrees to overthrow the people, man. So the Lord tells you through the precepts that this beast was diverse and who can make war with him. So when you go back to it, it says, and the world wondered after the beast, because they wondered how something so mighty and strong could fall. But going back a little bit back into the Salaki, is that what I want? Yeah, I'm gonna hold this real fast and come back to it. Verse number 5, it says, and after was given unto him a mouth speaking great things, because he speaks great things, and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Right? You have 42 months. Now, when you do the math, I don't know if brothers are able to see my calculator on my screen. You may not be able to see it. Salaki, bear with me. Yeah, you may not be able to see my calculator. But nevertheless, you do 40 times 30, it gives you 1,260, which is the same prophecy that you read about all throughout Revelations. And we're not about to necessarily go into that per se, but nevertheless, you have times, and the dividing of times, right? 180, right? 700. Let me just go into it with the calculator, right? If brothers can see this, can brothers see my calculator? Brothers may not be able to see it. Okay, calm. But nevertheless, when you go to Revelation, the 13th chapter, you can also go to the book of Revelation, the 12th chapter, right? It tells you in verse 14 that you have times, and dividing of times. The same thing you read about in Daniel, the 7th chapter, verse 25 all the way down. But it says, reading on, and power was given to him to continue 42 months. Now, the great things that he was speaking, let's go to Daniel chapter 8 and verse 25. It's the book of Daniel chapter 8 and verse number 25. It says, and through his policies also he shall cause craft to prosper. So you have to watch out for the sneakiness of the so-called white man and his policies, meaning his decrees, his laws, things that he comes up with, because he's making Planned Parenthood right before your eyes. He's creating a way for you to be able to lawfully kill your son and your daughter and get away with it, man. He's creating all of these different things like homosexuality, pushing it, man, waving these flags around, doing all of these things that have a parades, and having his craft, meaning his witchcraft, to prosper in the land. In his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, meaning he will be proud, like Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 3. And by peace shall destroy many. So you have to watch somebody that's moving in the spirit of peace. Oh, peace be unto you, and hanging down his head lowly. And the Lord warned you about men like that in Sirach, the 19th chapter, man. Verse 24 all the way down. And he shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. And that's talking about the so-called white man, right? So the Most High is telling you over and over that this man is going to speak great things. He's going to have the night day and the darkness light, and he's going to confuse you, man. Present himself as the angel of light, and shall continue for this prophecy. Same what you read about in Revelations, the 11th chapter, right? It says, matter of fact, let me get another precept on that. Let me go to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 26. It's the book of Ezekiel, chapter, let me get 27. It's the book of Ezekiel, chapter 27, and I'm going to start at verse 3. And say unto Tyrus. Now, Tyrus is an ancient, nation, right? So-called Africans. Now, Nebuchadnezzar took down Tyrus. But nevertheless, Tyrus was the beauty of the ancient world because of their ships and merchants, that they were on the seacoast. They did trade back and forth with many merchants. The same way is taken on the spirit of Babylon. It says, O thou art statue at the entry of the sea. And that's spiritual, because the entry of the sea is where all the money's going to be, at the port. Right at the entry, you can go this way, east, north, south, west. You can just figure the thing out, man. Just fill her on up and just start traveling. You're at the entry of the sea. In the same way, spiritually, a Babylon and Rome, which is the same thing, are at the entry of the sea, with philosophies, doctrines, handshakings, and all manner of things to rule the rest of the nations, which are a merchant of the people for many hours. Thus saith the Lord, O Tyrus, thou hast said, I am of perfect beauty, man. So that's what the so-called white man says, man. Puffed up to the third heaven. I am the perfection of beauty. I am everything. It says, thy borders are in the midst of the sea. Thy builders have perfected thy beauty. So the Lord said, all your men that are your builders of this society, they have perfected your beauty. And that's not the type of beauty that's righteous. That's the wicked kind of beauty. The same way Eve was thrown off by looking at that serpent and his beauty. You may look at something that's not for you, man. And the Most High overthrow you through your lust and your desires, right? It's the book of Revelation, chapter 13 and verse number 6. It says, and he opened his mouth and blasphemed against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. So the so-called white man, he even is puffed up to speak great things and sorcery against the Most High. And that's actually happening on earth. It tells you that in Revelation, the 16th chapter. You don't think the Most High is speaking prophecy in the third heaven concerning earth? And the proudness of the so-called white man is doing a return, how he's speaking, how he's going to take down the so-called black Messiah, man. There's different tactics. What area things in, different ships in. I mean, these things are in the workings. Did not the Lord say in the book of Revelation, the 12th chapter, that Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels? Meaning Esau is going to be prepared. He's going to be in war. He's going to have these things already prepared to try to fight, because essentially he knows prophecy by watching the prophets. Don't think Esau's not on here watching, man, taking notes. A knowledge should be increased. That's just not talking about us. Because as the word goes out, the Lord said righteousness and truth shall spring out of the earth. So the so-called white man, the elites, they're seeing all of these different caps on the corners. They're seeing them at the Barclays Center. They're seeing them on ESU, whatever it's called, man. Damn ESUPN, man, whatever it's called. I don't even watch that mess no more unless it's pertaining to the truth, so that to edify my people will find out matters so that we can teach about. Because we in these scriptures all day, right? Let me get to it real fast. Salaki, bear with me. Let's go to Revelation chapter 16. right? In verse 11. And it reads, and blaspheme the God of heaven. Check that out. Because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deeds. So they're never going to repent. No matter how you beat them, you get on them, you rebuke them, you show them posters and history and prophecy, they're never going to repent. Not even to the Most High. Unto death. It says in verse 7, and it was given unto them to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given over them over all kindreds and tongues and nations. Now keep in mind, as we read, it's talking about the Roman Empire, but the Roman Empire is the same thing as the American Empire. But in the Roman Empire, you had a strain of persecutions that would happen during 70 AD all the way to 95 AD on out. You read about that in the book of Revelations, the 2nd chapter. Got Antipas, St. George, the 12 apostles, all of the men of the Lord, they had to go through these things, man. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 2. Right? And verse number 12. And to the angel of the church of Pergamos, right? Out of the 7 churches. Right? These things saith he, which have the sharp sword with 2 edges. I know thy works and where thou dwellest. So John's talking about the Roman Empire and Pergamos, which is one of the most wickedest out of the 7 churches, even where Satan's seat is. So his seat is sitting in the Roman Empire. That's what the Most High just said, man. Think how deep that is. If you're sitting down, you're going to be comfortable. You're calling shots. You're on a throne. You're in leadership. You're sitting there telling people what to do. Now, if Satan is sitting down comfortably in Rome, then I mean every decision, decree, understanding, philosophy, doctrine, decision, everything is nothing but sorcery and a lie and witchcraft. And thou behold, so like thou holdest fast my name. Meaning out of all of these things that were going on with the strain of persecutions, the saints still hold fast the Most High's name through it all and has not denied my faith. And this is going to get turned up like that in the last days with the persecutions, man. The same way of everything we're reading about as we go through the history and as we go into the prophecy, it's all going to be the same thing that happens to America. Even those days were in Antipas. Now, Antipas was the bishop over the church of Pergamos, was my faithful martyr. Martyr means he died for the Lord, Yahushua, who was slain among you where Satan dwelleth. So, I mean, it may be a decision or a choice, rather, where you sit there and you say, do I serve the Most High or do I serve the spiritual demon Satan? Am I going to get down with this world and die and disgrace my honor and my legacy and everything that I did, my reading, my praying, my heart, what I said I was going to do, my covenant I made by putting my hand to the plow? I mean, what am I going to do? Am I going to serve this world or am I going to serve the Most High? Hey, Joshua said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, man. And I could feel him when he said that. He didn't say it quiet, timid, whispered. I'm pretty sure he said it with authority and might and zealousness, man, and to death. As for me and everybody with me, we're going to serve Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, man, no matter what's going on. Right? Going back to it. It says, Salaki, bear with me. In verse number 8, right? Yeah, I don't want to be too long-winded, but nevertheless, it says, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints. Now I want to get Revelation chapter 12 and verse number 14. Because that's exactly what's going to happen. And to the woman, which is Israel, was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might flee into the wilderness. This is the wilderness. And to her place, meaning to be built up in this land. Now, the same way when you read the book of Ezekiel, the 17th chapter, right? Let me get this quick precept. We grew in that land. The same way we come to Babylon and we grow all over again. And I don't mean we grow and we wear Givenchy and Prada and sneakers and we be athletes and we grow on the left hand side. No, we get nourished up to who we are. We understand prophecy. We understand we're Israelites, what the Most High requires of us. The understanding of true riches and knowledge and not sorcery and his educational system. You coming back to the knowledge of truth and being built up through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Now, this is Ezekiel chapter 17 and verse 5, talking about Israel getting taken down by the Babylonian Empire and Nebuchadnezzar. He took also of the seed of the land. You can read about this during the siege, right? In the book of 2 Kings 24, 2 Kings 25, and planted it in a fruitful field. Because contrary to popular belief, even though this land is wicked and this land is a desert, on a spiritual level, on a physical level, it's fertile for money, for fame, for endorsements, for all type of things on the left-hand side. It says, and he placed it by great waters and set it as a willow tree. And a willow tree, you know, is weeping, it's down, but we're by the great waters, which has a tree to grow. And it grew and became a spreading vine of low stature. So we grew in that land, but we became low in stature as we grew, whose branches turned toward him, and the roots thereof were under him. So it became a vine and brought forth branches and shot forth sprigs. There was also another great eagle, where I won't got to necessarily read that whole thing, but nevertheless, we grew in that land. The same way we got taken captive, we grew, but we were low in our growth. The same way we come to this land, we grow. We populate, we spread as Judah, and we wake up to be nourished through the knowledge of truth. How do we get nourished? Through the precepts, through the prophets, through the understanding, the knowledge. All of these things bring us back to life. It says, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she may flee into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished. And we're getting nourished right now. But we're at the point now where we're finishing our nourishment because everybody is about to be sealed throughout the 4 corners of the earth. And men are waking up, man. For a time, times, and a half of times from the face of the serpent. It says, and the serpent cast out his mouth water as a flood, meaning destruction, man. And the serpent is going to come to seek to slay you and destroy you. They cast out waters as a flood. David said in the book of Psalms, chapter 18 and verse 4, right, thou hast saved me, man, right, from the flood to the ungodly. Let me get that real fast. It's the book, Salaki, bear with me. Psalms chapter 18 and verse number 4. It says, the sorrows of death compassed me, and the floods of the ungodly made me afraid. So floods represent what? Nations. And it represents destruction. And the floods of the ungodly, meaning their lies and their fight and sorcery and persecution, they tried to overtake the innocent. The same way David is prophesying about this, saying the same exact thing. So the waters are casting out as a flood after the woman, meaning to chase us. If water is running behind you, man, that's persecution, destruction. That she may be carried, Slakia, maybe cause her to be carried away of the flood, meaning destroyed. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And that's going into, like the Lord said, truth shall spring out of the earth in the book of Psalms, chapter 85 and 11. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which kept the commandments of God and had the testimony of Yahushua. And that's exactly what's going down. Verse 8 in Revelation 13 and 8, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of lambs slain from the foundation of the earth. So everybody on earth is going to worship the so-called white man. They're going to worship his policies. They're going to straighten out their hair, wear contacts, wear suits. And not that there's anything wrong with wearing a suit, but nevertheless, I'm talking about love, the spirit that the suit puts on you. Love to change your identity, meaning your eyes, to a different color. Love the philosophy of the Greeks and Pallades and damn Zeus and Jupiter and all of these different things rather than King David, Solomon, Yahushua, and our true kings and our governors like Nehemiah. They're going to trade in their righteousness for a part of what they call the American pie, man, because they feel left out and they want a slice. So they're going to be worshiping this dragon in this land, right? Because their names aren't written in the book of life. And this is one of my favorite precepts, or at least my top 20, because it tells you if you're not worshiping this beast, that your name is written in the book of life. And the Lord is not a man that he shall lie. So if you're not worshiping this beast, you're not secretly covenanting any of this thing of the land, your name might be actually written there. Now, could it be blotted out? Can you deny the faith? Can you go off? Yeah, all of those things can happen, man. It says slain from the foundation of the earth, right? And let me get a quick precept on that. All right, let me get the book of First Esdras, chapter 3. I'm gonna get straight to the point. I'm not gonna read this whole thing. 21. It maketh every heart rich, so that man remembereth neither king nor governor, and it maketh to speak all things by talent. Talking about wine. Who gives you wine? The so-called white man in this earth. So it's going to make every heart rich, meaning you're going to be laughing and joking in a house of mirth. You're going to forget who you are, why you're in this land. And you're going to start worshiping this beast and start subconsciously moving in the spirit of the tablets and the harps and all these different things of this land, like you read about in Isaiah chapter 24, right? In verse number 8 all the way down. It says, if any man have an ear, let him hear, right? He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity, and he that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So on one fold, in context, it's talking about the Roman Empire that devoured all of the saints during the persecution, when it uprise and everyone fled, because they took them down, they cast down their babies, their children, they put them in slavery, they tortured them, right? And that's a whole breakdown for another day, to torture. The Roman Empire torture tactics, man. And most high willing, we're gonna do a whole breakdown on that. How certain men were boiled alive, beat, plucked asunder, and skin flayed off of them to deny the faith. And this was happening during the Roman Empire. And that's the same spirit Esau has in America, to beat you, butt break you, and rape you in front of your children, and to defame you and beat your body and have you to be so weak that you deny the Lord, if it's not in you from the foundation of the earth, to keep his name dear and not to deny the faith, right? But on another fold in prophecy, it's talking about every nation, as brothers know, is going to be taken down, right? To have put the children of Israel in servitude and bondage. It says, and I beheld, and Salakia too, that's even in the law, man. In the book of Exodus, chapter 21. An eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. If you do something to somebody, you have to get it back. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 13 and verse 11. And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth. This next beast is America, USA, the daughter of Babylon, and had two horns like a lamb and spake as a dragon. Meaning what? He's coming peaceably. He's acting like a lamb. And you're not afraid of a lamb. You see a lamb run across your living room, the last thing you're going to do is be scared for your life, man. You might wonder, how the hell did this lamb get inside of my house? Right? You might open the door and let it out, but you're not going to be fearful for your life. But if you've seen a big anaconda or a lion or some type of tiger in your living room, or some type of big eagle, right, hawking over you, and you wake up out of sleep, hey man, that may throw you off, man, fear. So the Lord said this nation is coming to you real docile, like a lamb, and skipping and real innocent. And that's exactly what America does, man. Every nation on the face of this earth wants to come to America. They want to live in America. They want to be American. They love Christmas, Halloween. This is festivities of the world, man. If you're not down with the spirit, and I was talking to my rib the other day, and I said, man, it's spiritual that in the world people call it the Christmas spirit, not even knowing that it's a spirit on them of a demonic demon that the Most High has created to put on you, to give you that same spirit that you're speaking of, man. To have you to be nice and, oh, would you like biscuits, and do you want honey, and oh, set up the little man right here, put him on top of the tree. It puts a spirit on you, man. And all of this is the lamb and the niceness and the joyful and jollity of this land, when in actuality it overthrows you. It's idolatry. It's covetousness. It makes you deny the faith. All of these things are hidden behind closed doors and curtains right in front of you, man. And he spake as a dragon. I mean, he's truly speaking as a dragon, even though he hides himself and puts on this facade as a lamb. Right? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to Daniel chapter 7 and verse 5. Right, going to the history of it. Right, it's the book of Daniel chapter 7 and verse Salaki. Yeah, I could get this thing. Now I'm gonna start at verse. I'm gonna just get straight to the point of verse 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up from among them another little horn. Now, this little horn coming out of the Roman Empire is talking about America. America is this little horn. Now, as we read earlier in Psalm chapter 75 and verse 10, a horn equals strength. So this little horn is coming into power in Daniel, the 8th chapter. Now, Daniel, we know through the spirit from Daniel 1 and 1, the Babylonian captivity, the Daniel 10 and 1, going into the Persia-Medo captivity. Daniel was years ago, man. So Daniel was prophesying about America, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. So when America was coming in power, it had 3 other horns that got plucked up by the roots. Now those 3 horns were nations. Now it's the French, the Spanish, and the British. They got plucked up because they were going to reign. Now you read about these wars, which is the French Revolutionary War, which is history. You got the French Revolutionary War in April 20th, 1792 to March 25, 1802. The French Revolutionary Wars were a series of sweeping military conflicts, right? So, I mean, there you have it. You could go right into these things. Now, if they would have reigned when you go into it, they would have reigned. Now, you also have the Spanish Revolutionary War. The Spanish Revolutionary War, or the Spanish Civil War. Spain, through its alliance with France and as part of its conflict with Britain, played a role in the independence of the United States. Spain declared war on Britain as an ally of France, itself an ally of the American colonies. So you have the Spain and America Revolutionary War. You also have the American Revolutionary War. In April 19th, 1775, September 3rd, 1783. The American Revolutionary War, also known as the American Revolutionary War or American War of Independence, secured America's independence from Great Britain. Check that out. And this reminds me of the Persian Revolt, man. Right? It's the same spirit of these different wars, declaring their independence. The same with the Assyrian, right? So, let me go back to Daniel. So you have these nations which got plucked up, which were 3 that would have reigned. We're saying the same thing in Daniel chapter 7 and verse 20. Up by the roots, and behold, And this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. It's the same great things that the Most High was telling you that the Roman Empire was going to speak. Great things. What are these great things? It's the same spirit, because it's the same nation all over again, coming back upon the earth. It says, matter of fact, yeah, I'm going to rush right. Matter of fact, let me get another precept. It's the book, right? Of Psalm chapter 44. Matter of fact, let me get a second address. Second address, chapter 11 and verse 29. And it reads, and when they so thought, behold, there awakeneth one of the heads that were at rest. So when they thought they was going to reign, right, here comes up this head that was at rest. It says, namely, it that was in the midst, for that was greater than the two other heads. So America is greater than the EU and the Russians. Although in the last, the Most High is going to use the EU and Russians to overthrow America. And then I saw that the two other heads were joined with it. Check that out. So the Most High is telling you that this little horn, or this head rather, is coming into power. And Ezra and Daniel, they got the same vision, but it's worded differently to where you're not like, I don't know, a head, a horn, feet, elbow, you might get twisted around, but nevertheless, it's saying the same exact thing. Now, going back to it, it's the book of Revelation, right? Chapter 13 and verse 11. I'm going to read that again. It says, and I beheld another beast come out of the earth. And when it's coming out of the earth, meaning it's coming into power. The same way it says in verse 1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast arise out of the sea. Out of the sea, meaning out of the different nations. Out of the earth, meaning coming into power. So all of these different diverse nations have already what? They've been destroyed. All of these different kingdoms have failed. So it has to come out of earth now. Essentially out of the Roman Empire that fell, which head was wounded unto death. Now, going back to it, and matter of fact, let me prove that. Let me go to the book of Revelation, chapter 17, and verse number 8. It says, the beast that thou sawest was, meaning the Roman Empire, it was in power. The beast that thou sawest is talking about John. John saw this beast because he saw it. The beast that thou sawest was, meaning John saw the Roman Empire and is not, because it came out of power. We went into the barbarian invasion. We came in and coming back with the Eastern Roman Empire, but yet failed once again. And shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. Now we know that a pit means a landmass, proceeding to Revelation chapter 9 and verse 1. Meaning out of Europe. And it ascended out of Europe and goeth into perdition, meaning destruction. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder. Did not the Lord say that this beast is going to make you wonder in Revelation, the 13th chapter? It's saying the same thing. Whose names are not written in the book of life and the foundation of the world. I mean, you're going to be wondering about the prophecies, wondering about a beast. Hey, man, when I was a so-called kid, and I used to go to church, man, my so-called pastor tried to go into Revelation, man. And I was lost as hell. It's going to be this beast. And boy, y'all not ready for this one. Amen, amen. It's a little too deep in here. Let's close this up, right? Because he couldn't go into it, man. He didn't know what the hell the beast was. It says, whose names were not written in the book of the life, so like a book of life, from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So how can the beast be yet is and was not? Because it came back again. And the Most High tells you that over and over and over, that it's the same spirit and the same kingdom. right? Let me go back to it. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 13, and verse, right? I'm going to get right to the point in verse number 12. So, like, yeah, it says, and he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. How did it get healed? By America all over again. Because from the Eastern Roman Empire came literally the Renaissance, which was the beginning of so-called white man coming right in, which means rebirth. Coming back into his paintings, Leonardo da Vinci, and all of these different things. And they're painting their history all over again and whitewashing the art history and coming back into existence. It says, whose deadly wound was healed. When he exercises all the power of the first beast, that's saying the same exact thing, man. Right? When you go into the book, let me get this quick precept. First Maccabees chapter 8. In verse number 15, the classic. It says, moreover, how they had made for themselves a Senate house. Now, who has a Senate house? America has a Senate house, man. This isn't a secret. Look at America's Senate house. And they're all proud in there, too. Every last one of them. Proud. Look at them. Taking a picture. And what are they discussing, man? What is this room about? Why they all got on suits and desks? And what is this place, man? We're reading about it in the Bible. They were doing this thing thousands of years ago during the Roman Republic. So this isn't something new, man. It's the same spirit. All the way from about 510 BC to 40 BC, they may not necessarily have suits on, but they came with their senates. They came down and they consulted so-called for the people. But it's not for the people. It's for their own well-being. Now, as time went on, process of time, it got more so-called advanced. But nevertheless, it's the same spirit. Why does America have pillars? Make it make sense. Because it's Rome. Rome has pillars. Why does the Secretary of State and the Senate House and all of these different places have ancient Roman architectural work? Somebody explain this. Because it's the same spirit on many ways than one. Same spirit on the infrastructure, same spirit on the people, same spirit on the politicians and how they conduct, same spirit on the currency, with taxes. It's the same exact thing, man. Right? Let me go back to it. It says, and he doeth great wonders so that he make a fire come down from heaven in the sight of men. So this beast, meaning America, is going to do great wonders and make fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men. Talking about what? ICBM missiles. That's the fire coming down from heaven to earth, man. It's not talking about sorcery and it's a fireball going to escape from the third heaven. When he is making great wonders happen, it's a great wonder to have military warfare. Prior to 1,000 years ago, or less than that, rather, 800, these things didn't exist. This is a great new wonder of the world that these things are even happening, man. The Lord said, I created the smith to blow the coals, man. The Most High created these men to do these diverse things. These are the wise men of Eden. Let me get that in Obadiah. It's not talking about your scientists, man. That's not the wise men of Edom. That's the wise men of the society. They may fool you or may feel some type of way about it. And oh my gosh, she's a scientist. And you may put them on a pedestal, but your real scientists or real men, rather, that are the wise of the earth are men that create potions, men that create infrastructure and things all the way down in the middle of the ocean while the ocean is rocking, yet they're making bridges. Doing things beyond our understanding in witchcraft, having missiles directing themselves and moving with targets, man. That's a wise thing because it's beyond our understanding. The Lord said, "Thou art wiser than Daniel." Right? Let me get that quick precept, and then I'm gonna jump back to that one. Now, if you're wiser than Daniel, the Most High is not a man that he should lie. Daniel was one of the wisest men that ever walked the earth. So if you're wiser than Daniel, there must be something Daniel doesn't know. Not that the so-called white man is wiser than knowledge and prudence and prophecy, but rather things that don't pertain to us. I don't know how many bumps are on a frog. And 9 times out of 10, I'm never going to search that matter out. That doesn't pertain to anything. That's vanity. Now I could really care less, why this species of frogs has 900 bumps and this species has 800 bumps, man. It's not going to give me everlasting life. I'd rather go into geography, etymology, prophecy, common knowledge, remembering precepts, teaching, building up with the fruits of the spirit, things that the white man does not search out. While he's searching other things, we're searching out a different. And how wise you are with the understanding in the scriptures, it's as wise as science and witchcraft is to search out matters with the same zeal. It's the book of Daniel, chapter 28 and verse number 2. It says this: "Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, thus saith the Lord God, because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a God. I sit in the seat of God in the midst of the seas." That's saying the same thing as the book of Ezekiel, chapter 27 and verse 3 all the way down. In the midst of the seas is ancient Tyre, which was one of the ports of the docks in the ancient world before Nebuchadnezzar took them down. "Yet thou art a man and not God, though thy set thine heart as the heart of God. Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee." There's nothing that you can hide because it will search it out. How hot is the sun? I mean, just ask Google anything, man. It's like you can't hide anything from the so-called white man because he's in the Amazon, in the swamp, with a temperature gun, swimming, trying to find that eel that got away so that he could damn strap him up and put a damn stick in him, huh? So he could find out where the hell he is in 9 months from now. These are the things that you can't hide. But on a deeper level, it's talking about the same thing that we're going into as far as what these great wonders, to make fire come down from heaven in the sight of men. This is the sight of men. The ICBM missiles. These are the things that the Lord is talking about, man. North Korea. Now you have all of these different diverse ICBM missiles that's raining and coming down to a city near you speedily. You got the Moab bomb, the mother of all bombs. It's literally a bomb called Moab. And guess who is with this bomb? Your Moabites. So they're testifying against themselves, man. So you have the FOB, the Moab, ICBM, nukes, all of these different diverse military tactics to destroy and devour, man. Now these are your nukes. Big fat bombs. So this is in the sight of men, right? It says this. Matter of fact, let me get a quick precept. Let me go to Revelation, the 9th chapter. All right, it's the book of Revelation, chapter 9. And I'm going to start at verse number 7. As a matter of fact, I'm going to start at, this whole thing is fire. I'm trying not to read the whole chapter. And notice it's not talking about World War II, man. This is not talking about World War I. It's not talking about that, man. Right? And that's a breakdown for a whole different day. Most High willing, we're going to go into it. We're going to rightly divide the words of truth. How that is impossible pertaining to revelation and prophecy for that to ever be possible. But nevertheless, verse number 2, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth. And unto them was given power as the scorpion of the earth to have power. Now the locusts are what? They're the army. And that's exactly what they do. They devour. When you read the book of Amos, right? The 7th chapter or the 8th chapter, it tells you that, man, that they devour. And they're armies. And they eat up the grass. Now, grass is men. That's 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 24. If grass is men, let me get this quick precept. And locusts eat grass, meaning they're going to be killing people, man. Devouring people. Overthrowing people. Showing no mercy. Leaving a famine. Right? Let me get this quick precept. Book of Amos, chapter 7, and verse number 1. And I want to get the book of Proverbs, chapter 30. Salakia. Trying to call it too many precepts. Right? Salaki, bear with me. I'm going to call this one like we at camp. We're going to hold that. And we're going to pull this one. It's the book of Amos, chapter 7, and verse number 1. It says, thus have the Lord shewed unto me, and behold, he formed the grasshoppers in the beginning of the shooting up of the latter growth, and lo, it was the latter ground after the king's mowing. And it came to pass that when they had made an end of eating the grass of the land, so the locusts, the grasshoppers, they eat the grass of the land. Now, the grass of the land, we're grass, right? Let me get this quick precept. I'm going to have to come back to that one in Proverbs. But let me get 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 24. It says, for all flesh is as grass. So if there's going to be this great army coming, which are likened unto locusts, they're going to devour the earth. And all the glory of man as the flower of the grass. The grass withereth, and the flower fadeth away. So you're going to have men that withereth, talking twofold, talking about death, and talking about withereth through what? Through heat. That's what makes something wither also. You read about that in Matthew, Mark, the 4th chapter, with the parable of the sower. Now, going back to Proverbs, chapter 30, let me get this quick precept. In verse 27, the locusts have no king, yet go they forth all of them by bands. Bands is an army. It's an old ancient way of saying they're going to war. They all flying together. They're on one accord. That's exactly how those locusts are going to be in the air, man. They're going to devour. And they're going to sting like a scorpion. Now, when it says sting like a scorpion, what it's talking about is talking about because out of those armies and out of that military warfare in the air are going to shoot missiles that are going to sting you. Because when you look at a locust or a fighter jet, rather, okay, we're kind of done with this history. I don't want to close it for some reason, though. Nevertheless. Now, these are your so-called fighter helicopters, which look just like locusts. But that's proved that. Now, these are your so-called locusts. Now, that's an army right there. That's a band. And they're going to come down and do what they're going to devour. And there's nothing you could do about it. If the Most High is not with you, taking on the same spirit. Now, this would be the scorpion right here. Now, out of it is shooting, which is going to sting you. So when you go back to Revelation, the 13th chapter, it says, and he do a great wonder so that he make a fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men. This is what that's talking about. This is the sight of men that these things and actions are taking place. We've seen World War One. We've seen World War II. And if it be the Most High's will that we don't die in days to come with martyrdom and martial law, famine and pestilence, we'll see World War III and the destruction of Babylon till we wait on our Lord Yahweh Shah in the air, man. Right? But nevertheless, going back to Revelation, it says, and there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpion of the earth to have power. And it was like it commanded them that they should not hurt the grass. Now we just read that the grass was man, meaning the Lord is not going to have any of us get destroyed if it be of his will. Why? Because there will be some standing here which shall not taste of death, man. That's what the Lord said. The book of Mark, chapter 9 and verse 1. Of the earth, neither any green thing. Now, green represents life. Like the Lord said, paraphrasing greatly, let's get the book of Song of Solomon. Because he's going to feed us during green pastures, which is life, and we're sheep. And also, we're going to lay down on a green bed with the Lord, man. Let's get the book of Song of Solomon. Was that 1? I think that's chapter 1. And verse number 16. Behold, thou art fair, my beloved, yet pleasant. Also, our bed is green. What does it mean our bed is green? I mean, we get our paintbrush and we start painting the bed, and the Lord says he wanted a green bed. No, green represents safety. It represents life. It represents, eating and being fat and flourishing. So your bed, meaning your resting place of the Lord, will be sweet, relaxation. The Lord will feed you, man. So the Lord is saying your bed will be green. He'll lead you beside still waters in the book of Psalms, chapter 23. And he'll take you into a green pasture, which is safety. All of this is spiritual, because colors take on different spirits too. You may see black and just, feel down, surrounded around too much black. You go into a black house. The light is on, but still feel dark in here. You feel it's a damn demon in here, or feel depressed. Then you go into gray. A lot of jails are gray, man. That's a depressing color, somewhat. Then you got red, which is so-called seductive, or blood, or horror. These different colors take on different things. You got blue, man, which is royalty. Somebody got blue on, they kind of feel some type of way. Blue is a real ancient color that's hard to find. So these different, like the Lord said, though thy sin be red like crimson, those should be white as snow. So, the Most High, he got everything in play through the Spirit. But nevertheless, going back to Revelation, chapter 9 and 4, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. So the Most High is going to kill those men that don't have the seal, meaning the law. It's the book of Romans. So like the book of Isaiah, chapter 8 and verse 16. That's the seal that the Most High wants you to have. It's the law within your inward parts. That don't mean you know it perfectly. What's the book of Leviticus, chapter 7 and verse 5 talking about? And then you're on the spot. No, meaning you're keeping the law. It's in your mind. It's in your spirit. It's in your thoughts. And your actions bring forth, and the fruit declares the tree have been dressed. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 8 and verse number 16. It says, bind up the testimony, seal the law among my disciples. So things have to be sealed. You understand? Through the spirit. But nevertheless, right, I'm not going to make this a lengthy breakdown. Most High willing, we could do a part 2 and go into the rest of the first beast and go into America. But nevertheless, Most High willing, you were edified through the spirit, right? And you continue to read, pray, and fast and be diligent and do everything you do to magnify the name of the Lord, man. Right? Let me get this quick precept, right, before I close out. Let me get this quick precept. Now, I didn't plan on doing a whole Revelation 13 breakdown. I just kind of wanted to touch on the first beast and the second beast. But nevertheless, through the mark of the beast and other things, it's real lengthy, and I don't want to, escape or go too fast and not cover every particular, like it says to do in the scriptures, man, to every work. But nevertheless, it's the book of Revelation, chapter 3 and verse number 2. It says, be watchful and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die. So you have to be watchful and watch for all things. Watch for prophecy, watch for the end of the world, watch your spirit, watch your households, watch the nation, and beware of evil. It says that are ready to die, for I have not found thy works perfect before God. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast, and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. So if you're not watching, the Most High is going to come unto you like a thief. He's going to overthrow you in the midst of your jollity, the list of your vanity, in the midst of you not taking this truth serious. You have to take this truth extremely serious, man. This isn't a game or some type of thing that you do in the world, man. This is life or death. And if you don't treat it as such, the fruit that you're declaring on a tree will show how you actually care about the Most High. Because if you care about the Most High and His work, it will be evidently shown by your fruit. You keeping the commandments. You being on fire. You casting away the flesh and the lust thereof, man. And making your body a living sacrifice. So with that, Lord willing, this was edifying. We come back to a part 2. Most High willing in prophecy. Most High willing, we're going to be heavy in prophecy these next couple of weeks coming in. Because it's a lot of all hell breaking loose throughout the earth. I want to give all praises and honor to the Most High God, Yahweh. By Shema Mashiach Malak Yahushua. Shalom.